So today we've got some rather big reveals for Space Marine Battleforces, 4 new ones for the Ultramarines, White Scars, Iron Hands and Salamanders. Let's talk about their contents and how good they are. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking Space Marines once more, and it looks like today we get the counterpart battle forces for the ones that were announced over Christmas. We got those slightly odd packaged Raven Guard and Imperial Fist ones back at the start of December. The very different style packaging making many people think that the equivalent ones for many other chapters will be on the way, and that turns out to be correct. It's potentially interesting news as well, given that the Space Marines Codex chapters have been rumoured to be getting their new Codex supplements at some stage in the near future. We'll have to wait to see if that's true or not. But big Battle Force model releases certainly doesn't seem like the most unlikely thing in the world to go alongside them. So the Warhammer community announcement today has announced 4 different Space Marine battle forces, one for Ultramarines, one for White Scars, one for Iron Hands, and one for Salamanders. It does look like there's no second re-release of things like the Raven Guard or Imperial Fist ones. They've already been out and about for a little while now. Those Raven Guard and Imperial Fist ones were very interesting for people who collected their chapters, but often less so than perhaps some of the other Battle Force boxes that came out over the Christmas period, things like, say, the Imperial Knights or the Custodes one. Perhaps the slightly awkward things about these battle forces is that they're kind of locked to their own chapter. I mean, lots of people collect Space Marines, but maybe not that many collect Salamanders individually, for example, or the same for White Scars. Games Workshop have perhaps just made it just a little bit awkward to actually want to pick up these boxes and then use them for a different chapter, just because a fair bit of the discounted stuff is locked up either in their unique character miniatures that usually only apply to one chapter, and also in their upgrade sprues, which again are nice enough to have if you collect the chapter in specific, though not 100% essential in my opinion. But in general, you're not going to want Ultramarines upgrade sprues if you happen to be collecting Imperial Fists. It's likely that we already know the pricing of these, £130, $210 or €170. That was the cost of the Imperial Fist and Raven Guard ones, and it seems unlikely that these will be significantly different to that, as they're basically the same offering. It does mean that they're a fairly hefty investment, but in general they do give you a decent discount on the kits contained within, provided of course you wanted those exact models and not your choice of different ones. I would say that in general the discount on these maybe is a little bit on the lower end if you're not interested in the upgrade sprues, and a few of them are slightly better or worse than others. As for releases, we don't 100% know yet. Games Workshop have merely said the release is coming very soon, and the way that they've said very soon actually implies it might be relatively soon rather than later. Often their soon often means somewhere time within the next 2 or 3 months. Very soon might be actually within 1 month, and they have actually released the first couple of these, which might make us think that that might actually be the case. We've still got the Imperial Guard release to come. No idea whether it will be before or after that, plus World Eaters sometime on the horizon. I guess we'll see whether or not these rumoured chapter supplements materialise or not. I would guess that they'd likely be coming at the same time as those, if they really are happening. In any case, let's take a look through each of these box sets in turn, talk about what you get, and some of the strengths and weaknesses of them. So first up we have the Iron Hands, well known for their vehicles, Iron Fathers and Dreadnoughts. We've got a March of Iron Strike Force here. As I said, likely £130, $210 or €170, and that'll get you Iron Father Phyros, a Primaris Tech Marine, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, 10 Intercessors, and the Iron Hands upgrade sprues and transfers. Hard to say that this one isn't on theme, to be honest. It's got their one unique character miniature in Phyros, a Tech Marine apprentice for him I suppose, 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, which are the only Primaris ones, and seeing as all of these boxes are 100% Primaris, they didn't have quite as many options I suppose, plus a box of 10 Intercessors. I guess it might have been nice if they'd swapped out one of the Redemptors for maybe a Gladiator or something for a little bit of variety, but I guess it's a bit of a March of the Dreadnoughts type list, or a start to one I suppose. In terms of the value of the miniatures, just actually for the models themselves, it'd be $280, and that's not including the upgrade sprues, so I guess you could see those as added value. It would mean for the miniatures themselves it's around about 25% off, so equating to around about $70 US, or roughly £32. Discount wise from Games Workshop, that's okay but not excessive. Obviously gets into a bit more of a reasonable territory for them if you do include those upgrade sprues, so if you were playing Iron Hands and you actually wanted them, then it does look a little bit better. In terms of the miniature contents, I'd say that having Phyros and the Tech Marine are maybe just a little bit overkill of 2 models that are going to fulfill the same kind of role. Certainly very on theme, might have been a bit more fun to have another unit though as opposed to having 2 characters, when both of those are kind of similar in their model and nature. Otherwise, though, it's really not a terrible start to even a fairly competitive Iron Hands list right at the moment. Redemptors are perhaps one of the best Space Marine units right now, though of course that could change with points changes in January. Intercessors are needed to fill battalions, though I guess might not be needed in the Arcs of Omen detachment when that one comes. And a Tech Marine perhaps upgraded to a Master of the Forge is a pretty common take when you're trying to help out a Dreadnought castle. Perhaps Phyros isn't super overwhelming in game right now, but he does add a lot of theme to the Force, and it's quite a cool miniature, I think. Overall, I do feel that with quite a lot of these Strike Force type boxes, they are perhaps better if you're a new player starting the faction as opposed to, say, a veteran Iron Hands player. If you do collect Primaris Iron Hands, I can't help but think that quite a lot of people are going to have their one unique character miniature already, so it might just have a bit less value for them. Next up, for the Salamanders, we've got their Warforged Strike Force. The artisans of the Salamanders bringing a fair bit of flame and melter to the table. Again, likely for £130, $210 or €170. And in this box, you get Adrax Agatone, the Salamanders commander with the mastercrafted Thunderhammer and Flamer, 3 Eradicators bringing the melter, 3 Aggressors bringing the heat with the flame weapons, and then rather quite a lot of Intercessors with 20 of those, plus the upgrade sprues and transfers. I'd say as upgrade sprues go, the Salamanders ones are just a bit more interesting than most, admittedly. They at least get you some Thunderhammers, which you could put on the Intercessor squads. Miniature value wise, it's kind of similar to the Iron Hands ones. $270, not including the upgrades, means around about a 23% discount or $62 off if you wanted these exact miniatures but not the upgrade sprues. Obviously, if you did, then it's added value. Overall, for this box, it feels kind of on point for the Salamanders. Definitely nice to see the Eradicators and the Aggressors in here. Would have been a bit sad if the Salamanders didn't have those units when they are the ones they're best known for with the Melters and the Flamers and things. Plus a durable battle line of Intercessors, which I think are generally going to be useful, but 20 of them is quite a lot for a themed box set, I suppose. I think with like the Iron Hands one, it might have been a bit more fun to see just 10 of those, and then maybe another squad or something. They could have thrown in some Blade Guard, or some more Eradicators or Aggressors, or a vehicle perhaps. Overall, it's quite nice to see the Aggressors and the Eradicators. I think that this is the first time that the multi-part kit of Eradicators has been discounted, if I'm remembering right. Of course, we did have quite a lot of them going around when the Indomitus box came out, and people were selling off all the different parts rather cheaply. I feel like compared with Iron Father Phyros as well, Adrax Agatone is just a little bit more transferable as a miniature. If you were buying the box and didn't necessarily want to collect Salamanders, you could quite easily convert him to another fancy captain of some sort. All they needed is a bit of a weapon swap. Overall, though, doesn't seem a terrible way to start Space Marines in general, though of course it's competing against all the other established Combat Patrol box sets like the Blood Angels and Dark Angels ones, both of which are kind of cool as well. I'd say really the make or break thing in this box is whether or not you really want 20 Intercessors straight away. They're really not bad for people getting going, but a lot of people might have a fair few of those in their collections already and might not necessarily want an entire 20 more. Kind of interesting that when they were talking about the box set, Games Workshop did even mention the Salamander's secondary objective in Arcs of Omen as well, where they said that you basically have to defend a home field objective. And I guess Intercessors could be useful for that. Again, kind of like the rest of them, a lot more value if you're starting to collect Salamanders compared with either established collectors or people who want the box sets for other chapters, I suppose. Moving on, we've got the fast-moving White Scars of Jagatai Khan with their Storm of Chogoris. Again, probably £130, $210, and €170. And I was kind of interested to see their take on a White Scars box set, as I was suspecting it to be fairly heavily themed on bikes, and that definitely seems to be the case. We've got their faction unique miniature in Corsaro Khan leading a big force of bikers on foot, but otherwise it's really bringing the Primaris biker and buggy goodness. 6 Outriders in total, 2 Invader ATVs, and a Mighty Primaris Chaplain on bike, often a very popular pick in White Scars lists for the sheer amount of damage that he can be slapping out with that Crozius. It's fairly common to have builds of him going around with big damage 5 hits every time he gets a hit through if you take Mantra of Strength and the Benediction of Fury Relic. In terms of raw miniatures wise, this one seems to be the best discount out of any of them. If bought directly through Games Workshop and through the individual kits for these, it will cost you $302, again not including those upgrades, meaning around a 31% discount or $92 off if you just wanted the models and nothing else. I feel like this one's quite interesting. Certainly fits the bill of a single reinforcement to get your chapter a little bit faster if you had a bunch of more solid ground moving models at the moment. And it is quite cool to see the Invader ATVs and the Chapter on Bite discounted. I don't believe that either of those have appeared in previous discount kits to my memory. I feel like perhaps the thing that makes this box just a little bit less super standout though is the Primaris Outriders. It is nice to see them discounted and everything, but currently they're relatively easy models to get your hands on if you want them, They appear in the Warhammer 40k starter sets, so you often get people selling them off on eBay at really quite big discounts. Just from a quick look on eBay, and say if you did want 9 Outriders or something, you could just literally go on eBay and get them over 50% off Games Workshop's resale values for them. It does mean that having these at around about a 30% discount isn't utterly terrible, but at the same time it's not going to be particularly interesting if you can get them for better than that already. It does vary a bit though, not everywhere has got quite as big or thriving a second-hand market as places like the UK or USA. So it might be interesting if you don't have loads of sellers trying to break down individual kits and sell off their Space Marines. Just for the feel of the box as well, Corsair Khan does feel just a little bit out of place, being the only on-foot miniature out of the entire force. I think at least a few people were a bit disappointed there was no option to make him on a bag if you did buy him, though I guess that would have been a much bigger and probably more expensive miniature as a result. I guess it's fair enough though, you're likely to want at least some foot forces in a White Scars force, and he can lead those, whatever else you choose to buy in. Overall, in game terms, most of the Space Marine bite models aren't desperately enormously strong. They're not too bad in White Scars, where they can very easily get first turn charges with their advance and charge thing. But even with their slightly discounted price compared with previously at 45 points, the Outriders aren't outstanding. Maybe just a little bit too focused on anti-infantry and not really too able to deal with heavy hitters or hard targets and things with their massive strength 4 attacks. Still though, rules can always be in flux. There's likely to be some very big Marine points changes in January. We don't know what's going to be strong or weak at that point. Overall seems interesting enough, though if you just wanted lots of Outriders, you might do better off getting them off eBay or something. Finally, last but not least, we have the boys in blue. We've got the Ultramarines in the Scions of Macragge box set. Again, like the rest, likely to be £130, $210 or €170, and this one gets you 2 characters rather than 1. In this box, we've got Marnius Calgar plus his Victrix Honor Guard, Chief Librarian Tigurius, 3 Blade Guard veterans, 10 Intercessors, and 10 Hellblasters, plus of course the Ultramarines upgrades and transfers. I was guessing that when we saw these boxes release, it would be Tigurius in the Ultramarines one. I wasn't necessarily expecting both him and Calgar. I'd say this probably has some positives and negatives though. If you're starting collecting Ultramarines from a standing start, then this is pretty ideal for getting 2 of their unique and fairly powerful characters on the board. If you're wanting this box set for any other chapter though, it probably means that it's kind of not so good. You've got 2 different models that aren't going to be relevant to your chapter, and Calgar isn't a miniature that can easily be converted into something else. Discount and value wise, the miniature's value adds up to around about $277, not including the upgrades once more. Again, around about a 25% discount or $67 off. Not too bad, but not outstanding either. I guess it is interesting enough seeing Tigurius and Calgar discounted, plus the multi-part Blade Guard, which I don't think have been in a previous discount box either, with the Intercessors and Hellblasters being kind of filler, I suppose. Certainly not out of place in an Ultramarines gun line though, with all the buffs and things that they can get going for them. Overall, really doesn't seem too bad if you're a new Ultramarines player and looking to start and get some of their characters on the board. This one I think has very limited value to people beyond Ultramarines though, and also fairly useless if you're an Ultramarines player that both has Calgar and Tigurius, so you wouldn't want any more copies. So anyway then, let me know what you make of the models. Would you be tempted to pick up any of these? And if so, which ones are looking best to you out of the selection? Obviously all of these have much better value to their individual chapters than Marines in general, but I do feel that in particular the Iron Hands, Salamanders and White Scars ones all could be interesting enough if you want to have those type of models added to your force. I guess there's always the potential to sell off a few bits that you don't want. If you didn't want the upgrade sprues or the unique characters, you could potentially sell off those and get the rest at a little bit of a better deal. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. We'll certainly keep the regular 40k content coming on the channel. I do tend to post new videos just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos, I would just like to quickly mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and you can find that linked in the video description below. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes as to what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.